Sure, so it's my first time at Singapore Fintech Festival. First impressions are incredibly positive. The quality of the exhibitors, the innovation that we're seeing with the companies around here. We've had some excellent conversations, so we'll definitely be back next year. It's a great question. I think it's something that we're very proud of as a business. So we always start with the underlying technology. We think about this on a global basis. So it's a single platform, single code base, single set of APIs, which allows our customers to integrate once, regardless of the markets that they want to operate in. Clearly, not all markets are the same. And so once we've got that standardization, we then start to adapt locally. And we do that based on local regulation and also customer needs. So if we think about a country like the Philippines, where BankNet, the local domestic scheme, is extremely important, we've done a direct integration to that. So customers can choose whether they process local transactions via BankNet or international transactions via the scheme's Visa or MasterCard. But not only the domestic switch is important, some regulations, some markets have the need for data to be processed on soil or for your infrastructure to be on soil. So in countries like Saudi Arabia or the UAE, while we're a cloud-native business, we manage that cloud on-premise, that cloud in country. So it's really about start local and then adapt start global and then adapt locally as needed. I think the way we see it is that traditional processing is very much about taking a piece of information, assessing that, and making an authorization decision. What we're trying to do is take that a step further. So how do we use the data that we have to move from being a reactive decision maker to an actual proactive? And so if we take that data, we understand the customer, we mix that in with other data we have, we can start to form predictive analysis on how we think that customer is going to behave in the future. That can be used around things like transaction monitoring, fraud predictions, but it can also be used to help a client think about how do they grow their business. So the more insights that we can give our customers, they can take that data and apply it to their customer base to grow. And because we have such a global customer base, we have a digital bank in APAC, a digital bank in LAC, a digital bank in Europe. We can take insights from those different regions to give it to customers to help them think about how can that be adapted and made make sense towards kind of their particular situation. I think there is a huge diversification across the market. There's many markets, they're all at different levels of maturity. And so what I think that's forced the APAC region to do is to think about interoperability and orchestration of certain different services. And I think that's where APAC as a region has been probably a leader across the world. And so I think if you've got to take one thing from this region, it's how do you be flexible, how do you take different propositions and stitch them together so that, again, you're removing that complexity for the customer, and then they can use, depending on the use case, they can then choose how the payment method that they need to use. And I think we're starting to see some of that level of agility moving into other regions, but I think it definitely started in the APAC region. So we operate in about, I think, 65 markets around the world. What's really important for us is to build deep configuration into a standard platform, because that means then that you can actually adapt to many different cultural differences, client requirements, regulatory needs, but still keep a standard platform. You know, as a SaaS business, what we try and do is we try to continually upgrade the platform and develop new functions and features, but we make them available to all of our customers. And so really that's, I guess, the starting point. We then look, as I said earlier, at kind of the local needs of the countries, and we look at how they've adapted. And if we see that something in Africa is a great example where they've kind of leapfrogged technology because they've gone straight to mobile native. So we did a lot of development in Africa that we hadn't done in other markets, but we took that development and then offered that to all of our customers. So it's really this kind of balance between global and local. I think as a business, we've done that quite well. A huge opportunity for all payments businesses, I think. At the moment, we are powering a number of the world's most popular stablecoin-backed cards. So Dollar App in LATAM, Rain in Puerto Rico, Red.Pay here in Asia, Gnosis, and we see a huge growth in those types of markets. I think there's a broader opportunity for us as well as for whether we can create, let's call it a stablecoin card in a box that we can then take to to other partners that maybe are not as familiar with that technology. So it's definitely something that we're spending a lot of time researching, and we hope to be able to kind of announce something more in that space in 2026. Singapore has always been a market leader in the region, and I think it's where people come together like this to share ideas and to share innovation, and it is that launchpad into other parts of Asia. We don't have anyone specifically in Singapore, but we use Singapore as that central hub, and that's why I think like Singapore Fintech Festival are so important. And actually, I think some of the ideas that we see in other markets originate here in the market. But we see, I guess, Singapore along with the Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, and Hong Kong as key, I guess, focuses for us, and then we'll continue to going forward. We've actually just completed our 5-year strategy through till 2030, and APAC is a key part of that. We see good growth actually in all regions. We're in LAC, APAC, Europe, Africa, the Middle East, but we actually see the population and the innovation in the APAC region I think it's probably unmatched in anywhere else. So the opportunities here are huge as well. We're very fortunate to power some great brands already. We have GoTime in the Philippines, True Money, Mox, Agoda. So we have great opportunities in this region. But even just this week alone shows that we're only scratching the surface. And I think, we would be very confident that over the next 5 years we'll add to that client list. I think where we see a huge opportunity is the advancement of what we call digital services. So everything nowadays is through the mobile phone. All of being able to deliver dynamic experiences, tailored personal experiences through the mobile phone is going to be a huge opportunity. And we do a lot of that through tokenization. And so we are a market leader in tokenization. We in my personal view, we use the term payment a lot. In reality, I think in the future, we're just going to talk about tokens because everything is tokenized. And I think when you look at what some of the big brands out there like MasterCard are doing and getting rid of the 16-digit card number, it's all going to be tokenized from 2030. I think that's going to drive a huge amount of innovation and change within some of the financial institutions around the world. So I think there's going to be a big change there. And then the other thing I would talk through is probably the stablecoin. I think we're going to see huge innovation, and we're starting to see real use cases that can drive real value for consumers. So I think they're probably the two trends I would see. The other thing, obviously, it would be remiss to not talk about is AI, and I think AI can impact many parts of the value chain. For us, I guess we think about it internally around internal efficiencies, whether that's automation, whether that's helping accelerating our code, whether that's driving insights from the data we have. And then externally, from a product perspective, it's more around when we think about fraud predictability, or if we think about how do we take some of the insights from our clients around the world and deliver data as a product to customers. But I think we'd all be surprised if AI doesn't transform this part of the ecosystem in the next 3 to 5 years. I think it's a huge challenge. I think if we talk to other CEOs and businesses around, I think the two main things they're interested in is fraud, and I guess an element of fraud is cybersecurity. Yeah? And I think with everything going digital, that cybersecurity just becomes increasingly critical. I think tokenization is one way to address that. It's much more secure. We issue one-time virtual cards, for example, and so the ability to generate fraud is much further reduced. But unfortunately, these fraudsters are often one step ahead. Yeah, so I don't think we can ever stand still. We have to consistently, I guess, evolve and move with the market. But it's a huge focus for us